Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. This episode is brought to you by Pulsetto, the vagus nerve stimulator that biohacks your parasympathetic nervous system. Let's face it, we can't avoid stress in our lives, but we can learn how to handle it better. And in order to do that, we need to relearn how to switch our body's programming from the constant fight-or-flight mode back to the rest and repair mode. And you're probably thinking, that's certainly easier said than done when you A, don't have much time, and B, don't know how to do that. And that's where the Pulsetto device can be super helpful. It uses electrostimulation to help you activate your parasympathetic nervous system in as little as 4 minutes a day. 86% of users report feeling calmer and less stressed after using Pulsetto, and I can vouch for that. I've had some trouble with sleep, therefore I especially love the 10-minute sleep setting that helps me relax and fall asleep faster. And as we all know, good sleep is so important. So if you have trouble relaxing and you've been looking for a way to improve your sleep, why not give this a try? For more info, check out episode 208 of the podcast, in which I interview the co-founder of Pulsetto. And for a 10% discount on your order, go to pulsetto.tech/wiredforsuccess. That's pulsetto.tech/wiredforsuccess. Enjoy. Without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. My guest today is serial entrepreneur Damion Lupo, who has launched and grown over 70 companies from 0 to 100 million throughout a remarkable 25-year journey. In addition to being a prolific author with 12 published books, Damion is celebrated for his extraordinary achievements in building multiple companies from the ground up, many of which have reached 7, 8, and even 9-figure valuations. And despite a significant setback that saw him lose a 20 million portfolio at the age of 30, Damion's resilience and determination led him to not only overcome homelessness, but also rebuild his wealth beyond 9 figures. Today, he's a driving force in transforming the retirement landscape with his groundbreaking retirement plan system and revolutionizing the home and apartment construction industry through his pioneering work with Frame Tech. So welcome, Damion, and thank you so much for being on my show today.
Glad to be here, Claudia. It's good to see you.
So, Damion, you lost 20 million. And I would be lying if I said, I feel you and I know what you went through. So I hope it's okay to ask what happened and what did it feel like?
So the 20 million, anybody that's lost everything and has had to start over can relate to 20. It was actually 25 million. I had a $20 million portfolio and it went to -5. So that's where you end up homeless when you have negative. It's kind of like when Donald Trump lost all of his money, but he looked at the homeless person and said that person has a $900 million higher net worth than me because mine is -900 million. That was, and his wife looked at him like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And he said, never mind. But it's actually one of those stories. I think he was talking about this on Oprah or Ellen or something like 20 years ago. And it was a similar story where I had built up business and real estate, a big portfolio. And ultimately my ego got in the way. My ego is driving things. And when your ego takes over, and this is the problem with success. If you just have success, it's a terrible teacher. And you tend to think it's all you and that you can do no wrong. I've had many people over the last 5 years that have talked about their success in real estate. And I said, so what have your biggest losses been? And the response is, I haven't lost anything. And I go, well, it's a matter of time. And that's incredibly important for people to realize that the losses are really just your learning experiences. And you have to be able to see them and embrace them and plan for them so that when they happen, you say, this is part of the process, not, oh my God, my life is over. And that's kind of part of what I did. And it's why it took me about 5 years to to go from losing that portfolio. Because ultimately, when you ask what happened, I did a lot of things, made a bunch of money over 5 years buying houses, thought I was invincible, 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And then I went out and started developing property all over the country. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was all new. And I got in way over my head and had no idea. I didn't have any people that were smarter giving me the truth. And so my ego ended up writing a check I couldn't cash.
Right. Yeah, that hurts. But I always feel that failure is also our best teacher. So it seems like you learned your lessons.
I'll tell you what, I learned a lot of lessons. And one of the greatest things that anybody can do, and I did this at that point, is write a log of lessons learned, where you literally sit down somewhere for a couple of days after you have a major life meltdown. You lose a business, you lose a marriage. If you're Taylor Swift, you probably do this, and it comes out in the form of song every time you break up with somebody. So it's documenting that process. What did I learn, and what are my rules around that? I have a very specific list of my rules for business and investing. And the reason I do that is because we get emotional. Humans are very emotional. We get greedy, we get fearful. And instead of having rules that keep us on the field, most people just let their glands drive them, and they end up in the bleachers. And so, sorry for all the sports analogies, but the reason I did this, I wanted to harvest all the lessons. There were a ton of lessons that I learned after losing that money and losing really everything. I mean, I lost my car, my house, my money, my dog, my girlfriend. It all went away. And then I ended up having this experience of rebirth and reinvention, and then having rules going forward, because I didn't before. I was literally doing whatever felt good, really good hedonistic approach to life. And if you don't have rules, you will literally do dumb things. And then you'll say, why did I do those? And you won't have a good answer, because it's not rational. It's not intellectual. It's absolutely emotional. So the rules keep me in check with my ego.
I love that you approach it so strategically. And I mean, can you maybe share your top 3 learnings and also the rules that you came up with to mitigate this in the future?
Well, one of the biggest rules, and I made this mistake even recently, so we're always learning. I wrote a book after that whole meltdown in 2012 called Reinvented Life. And then I wrote one before that called Maverick Mistakes in Real Estate Investing, which was like the first million I lost. What's interesting is those were just like they were almost the intro to my life, meaning that if you're in the game, if you're out there building businesses, if you're doing stuff, your chapters keep getting written. And so there's more and more lessons. So in recent years, one of the things that I've really, really gotten certain about is that the people you go into business with, especially business partners, that's a marriage. And the people that you work with, there's an inner sanctum. You're not necessarily marrying an employee or a contractor, but you just have to be really conscious about who's around you. Business partnerships are marriages. And if you pick somebody that you're like, well, this person doesn't have values. For example, I was doing some business with somebody. I went to Argentina with this guy. And the first thing he wanted to do, this is a guy that was married with young kids, and we did yoga together. The first thing he wanted to do was go to a strip club and find hookers. And so I saw that, and I thought, this guy is a cheating, lying douchebag. And so if he's willing to do that outside in his marriage, he's going to do that in business, because the way we do anything is the way we do everything. Yep. So the point of all that is there's a rule. I look at people holistically, and I say, do I want to, like, you're not going to do this if you go get a cup of coffee at Starbucks. You're not going to say, okay, I need to know that the barista has my values. But people you're going to go into deep business with, there's a really important rule set, or there's a filter, if you will, on who you get into business with, because it will impact every part of your life. And stress is the biggest killer. Make no mistake. It's not heart disease or cancer or any of these things. It is stress. That's what's killing people. And if you pick the wrong people in your life, it's kind of like picking the wrong spouse. Wrong spouse can also kill you, but it's the same thing. So that's really the number one rule. And then behind that is picking something that has a purpose, a deep purpose, not passion. Big difference between passion and purpose, because business can be really hard. And it's just about passion. You're going to wake up some days and go, I'm not passionate about this. This work sucks. I hate this. I don't want to do it. I need to go find something to have an affair on my business with, something I'm passionate about. But the purpose will pull you, because it's like a North Star. It's a moon. It's something that guides you when it gets hard. And business is hard. So those are really the top 2 rules. Make sure you have a purpose, and make sure that you're not getting married to the wrong people in business.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So you had all that wealth and you lost it. What did you miss most when the money was suddenly gone?
So what was interesting is I had I think that it's important, and people can identify the terms rich and wealth different ways. People,
Mm-hmm.
the way I look at wealth is the holistic, like your health and your relationships and your money and your stuff and your options. And then riches are like the gold, the cash, that kind of stuff. So from my and you could reverse those, but
Mm-hmm.
when I lost the money, the thing that I lost was the certainty, because money gives you a lot of certainty.
Yeah.
I missed my Ferrari for a minute, but then I got over it. I missed the ability to use a credit card because all my credit card companies canceled me. And so there's those problems. I missed the people. And one of the things that I realized is I really didn't have a lot of people. I had people that were part of the tag-alongs, where if you're successful, there's a lot of people that want to be around you, and you realize how many friends you actually have. One of my friends just lost $1 billion worth of investor money recently, and he's finding out how many friends he actually has, people that are sticking by him, people that trust him, know him, love him. And it's really hard because you find out it's not very many people. And when I lost my world, it was virtually everybody went away. There were a handful of people. I missed the relationships, because I actually learned a lot that most of those weren't authentic relationships. And so it's back to the people, being really mindful of who are the people around you. And I had these experiences in the last few years where I thought I had friends and they were all looking for a payday. They were all looking for big checks to be part of the ecosystem and to basically, drink the milk off the mother cow. And that's frustrating to go through that, but it's just a reality. So, beyond that, the security of having some resources, when you take that away, it's incredibly terrifying. That's a hard part for most people, which is why most people don't go into business, or they don't push hard, because they're afraid if they make a mistake, they're going to be in that exact position.
Yeah, I totally understand that. For me, money is security and safety. And so I would be so worried. Now,
It's what's interesting is the problem is that most people think more money will give them more safety and security, which is what I thought. I made $1 million, then I made 2, and more millions will create more safety. And
this isn't right.
it doesn't make any difference. We just have different things that we think are necessary versus the wants. Oh, now I need a faster, more expensive, luxurious car, a bigger house. Now I need a jet. It just keeps going. And those things become the basis of our security. And the reality is our security and the things that provide the basic essence of life are relatively simple, but we keep looking out, and we're surrounded by marketing and all these things trying to get our attention, to make us spend more, to go work more, to spend more. And it's this evil cycle. So that's something that we really need to ask the question, I boil this down to these 3 levels of wealth, if you will. There's the first level, which is your security. It's like, what's the number? What's the thing that you've got to create for your security? And then there's a comfort, which is beyond that. And then there's the rich, and this idea allows us to say, okay, what is it really going to be for us to be secure, so we can eat and we don't die of the elements? And then the comfort is where our creature things that we do are there. And then rich is where we start doing, the stuff that we're getting marketed to that we think is needs. And when you really have that in place, going from comfortable to rich, when you're in a comfortable space, if you can figure that out, if you get that plan, I call it the MAP, the Millionaire Action Plan. If you can figure that out with your business, you can get to a point where you take money out of the equation. And once you take money out of the equation, meaning you've got a business, you've got something that's producing, so it's you making money in your sleep. That is the goal, so that you can stop thinking about money. If you're always thinking about money, you haven't won the game. Even if you've got $100 million, it doesn't matter. You got to get to the place where money is not the driver in your life, or you'll always be in prison.
Exactly. So true. And I mean, the hedonic treadmill is real. So you always want something else, probably. But I agree. As long as you're a slave to money, then you're not free, and you haven't reached the end goal yet. I'm curious, is there something else that you learned when you rebuilt your wealth that you missed the first time around? Like, did you approach it differently the second time?
A couple of things. One, you always need to have people around you that are telling you the truth, that will tell you the truth, and you'll pay attention to the truth. So there's all these opportunities for mentors and masterminds and things. Question is, people are in therapy and they say, oh, I've got a therapist or a pastor. And the reality is those people oftentimes are keeping you in a weird cycle, and they're not telling you the hard truth and then holding you accountable. When I had those people in the beginning, and then there was a period where I didn't have them, and that's when I got into trouble because I didn't know what I didn't know, and ultimately I had no insight into reality. So that was a big part of it. Now I've got multiple people that are telling me the truth, that are challenging my thinking, and I spend a lot of time thinking about my thinking. I didn't do that in the beginning. The first 10 years, I was really mostly just doing and feeling and reacting, and I didn't have anything that was. The other mistake was thinking too small. I have a book called that I'm rereading called Thinking for, it's by Schwartz. It's actually behind it. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big. And whenever we think about like making $1 million or having a $1 million business, my challenge to everybody is to say, okay, my new goal is to 10x that. Why? Because it forces you to grow. I can tell you from starting more than 70 companies, you can basically stumble into $1 million net worth, $1 million company if you just grind really hard. But you will end up in a situation where you're just grinding all the time. And that's if you can't do that with a $10 million company. You have to grow, and actually you have to have a real business that's not just a job with a business shell. So that 10x thinking, Dan Sullivan has a great book called 10x is easier than 2x. I'm actually looking at it across my room here. And when you think about that, it forces you to grow, which as an entrepreneur is the whole purpose. Like you're always wanting to grow. It's one of your human needs. And that was a big shift from the 2000 to 2010, and then 2010 to 2020. It was shifting into, all right, let's 10x and then let's 100x. And so it was exponential thinking, and it forced me to evolve. Whereas most people are just linearly bumping along, maybe increasing their self 2% a year. And I'm thinking, how do I triple or 10x myself? You have to do things different. You can't just do the same thing. And unfortunately, the world is changing so fast with AI and all these technologies that if you're not changing exponentially, you're going to get driven over by everything that is.
Why do you think it's easier to 10x than to 2x? Is it because it forces you to build systems, or what's the magic?
Because 2x is basically saying, okay, I'll just work harder, I'll just work more. And you can use the same things. The problem is you're always going to be chasing the people that are thinking 10x, because they're going to do things so much faster and more beautiful. And ultimately you're going to lose, and you're going to say, well, I was working harder. So the reality of a marketplace is that there are people that are thinking 10x. And if you're not one of them, then your 2x is not going to get you there, because somebody else is going to do it better simply because they're thinking differently. And the crazy thing is that's what we can do. All of us have the ability to say 10x, but we tend to stay in that safety space, in this box where I'm going to just grow a little bit. But most people, we think about our time, the 168 hours a week we have. What do most people do with the time after they're 40? They're the 9 to 5 that we have, that's our quote unquote work time. What do we do after that? The 128 hours a week. Yeah, there's some sleeping involved, but we spend a lot of time on other things that are not growing us. And if we were, that's the big magic sauce. What are you doing on the other hours that are growing you? And ultimately that's where 10x happens almost automatically. But I don't see most people doing that. And then they wonder why they're struggling. It's because they're not growing themselves.
I want to dig a little deeper here. So if someone shadowed you in, say, your most successful year and in your worst year, what different habits or mindsets would they have observed that made all the difference?
It's a good question. And one of the first questions is, what does a bad year look like? What does a good year look like? Sometimes I've made a lot of money. It's probably a really bad year because my ego took over. And some years I've spent a lot of money. I've had businesses where I just put money into them. I was taking out debt. I was losing money. Is that a successful year? In a lot of ways it was. So the best years are the most optimistic ones, where we're thinking big, we see a brighter future. The worst years are the ones where it's like everything in the world is coming to an end. And what's interesting is the first 10 years, I was very optimistic. That's all I was. I didn't have the other thinkings. I didn't have the pessimistic or the pragmatic thinking. And so there's this value. There's a book called Thinking for a Change. Really important to be able to think differently, different ways, optimistic, pessimistic, pragmatic. And when you do that, then you really can look at things objectively versus emotionally. So I could tell you this last year was the best year and worst year of my life. I can give you examples. There's no year that was just the best year. There was no year that was just the worst year. And it's because it depends on how we're looking at it. Whether it's kind of like a farmer. Is the spring good or bad? Is that a good season or a bad season? Is the fall good or bad? If all you're thinking about is the harvest and it's like, oh, I get to eat the things, then fall is awesome. I tend to like spring because I like building things. Some people like the winter because they like sleeping in. And so it's good and bad. It depends on your perspective. Who are you? And so for me, I look at the years where I get to build things. I tried retiring one time, and I just sat back and I looked around, and it was very boring because I wasn't building something. I wasn't creating something. As humans, we're meant to build and create and experience. And so people tend to be misguided with their time. They tend to go, oh, I just want to play. I think playing is important. I've done a really terrible job at playing. I tend to be building all the time. So I'm missing out on experiences. Another great book I just read called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. Super important for us to not wait until we're 60 or 70 to have the experiences when it's hard to move potentially for most people. But it's also important to not say, I'm going to start building something when I'm 60 or 70. So there's this balance that you can have. And it's not even balance. It's more seasonal. Like you might spend a year grinding and focusing or 9 months. And then you say, boom, I'm going to take a season of weeks or a month or something. And I'm just going to chill out. That's more rational than this idea that I want to have so many minutes of fun, so many minutes of faith, so many minutes of health, so many minutes, like trying to do that all the time. It is a virtually impossible situation where we're just stressed out about our calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. I mean, there's always something good and something bad, and it's hard to define what success looks like. But I think what I'm getting at is like, do you have a stack of healthy habits that you would call your personal non-negotiable success habits?
Yeah, and here's the core rule around the best habits. Keep things simple. My theme for 2025 is simplicity. It's cutting out all the noise. And you know as well as I do, there's more things and more noise. It's like trying to manage an email box. It's just noisy. So how do you simplify it? You block, you unsubscribe, you get rid of things, or you just change your email completely and you let everything else die and you figure people will just reach out to you, they'll find you, or your internet will turn off because you haven't paid the bill and you'll go, oh, and then you figure it out. But I think about simplicity. So for like my health, what's simple? It's the food I put in my mouth and staying close to nature and keeping my body moving. And people go, like I was watching Brian Johnson's documentary on Netflix, and it was really interesting. The guy takes like 150 pills a day or some crazy thing, and it's his blueprint. And I get it. I mean, like that's his theory. I'm not going to spend that much time. I am going to spend a lot of time. So I think about, all right, what's the core? Like, what's the domino? Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. What's the one thing that will be the big leverage domino? It's not a huge domino. It's the domino that starts everything. For me, that was alcohol. Should I stop drinking? And the answer was yes. Did I? No, for a long time. And then last year I said, I'm done. It was just like moment, read Andy Grace's book, The Naked Mind. And I said, that's it. So that's it. That's 4 months in. It's a completely different way of being with that out of my life. So that thing, and then spending as much time in nature as opposed to concrete and all of the EMF and all this chaos. Those two things are the two, and everything else is really easier. And like, I don't eat like crap at 11 o'clock at night because I'm not drinking. I was doing that all the time. And it's really asking the question, what is that one thing that you don't want to necessarily change, but will make all the difference in the world? What's the one thing that you think about all the time, but you don't do anything about? And there's usually one thing for everybody. Maybe you're in the relationship that's toxic and killing you, and you're like, yeah, I should get out of this. But my kids they'd struggle. So meanwhile, you're a martyr. So it's that question. And moving, the new smoking is sitting. I don't know about you, but I tend to sit a lot. And I'm like, okay, my butt is going to kill me. It needs to get off this chair and move around. And so how do you acknowledge that? Manage your steps. Like it's a really simple thing. The one thing, have something that tells you how many steps. And if you haven't stepped 10,000 in a day, you literally go walk somewhere. And so it's simplifying things to where you can take action on them and not giving yourself 52 different things a day. It's boiling it down to 1 or 2 or 3. And then when those things become so automatic, like I don't think about, okay, I'm not going to drink today. It's who I am. I don't drink. I'm just not a drinker. And once those things are automatic, great, go add 1 or 2 or 3 other things. But the mistake people make is it's January 1st. I've got 25 New Year's resolutions or 10. And guess what? February 1st, they've fallen on their face on virtually everything. So it's narrowing the things down and then making a commitment to yourself and saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm worth. And you do the thing. There's that one thing with our health, with our money. I mean, the money thing is a big pile of whatever, but if you don't have your health right, it is the first wealth, as Robert Kennedy talks about. Everybody in America has dreams, but when you're sick, you have one dream, and that is to be healthy. And so you got to get that right, or the money, the entrepreneurship, the business, all that stuff doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting is, or where I see a lot of people just struggle is, sometimes you can make these decisions like stop drinking, and it's like a black or white decision. But when you look at things like exercise, for example, I find that sometimes you just have to go through different cycles, and you have to be aware of those cycles, because maybe it's easy for you to go running in the morning in the summer because it's nice, the weather is great, but it sucks in winter, and then people just fall off the bandwagon. But I think you have to have a plan for those different cycles. You have to be aware of those cycles and have a plan, right?
I look at this like I created something called the peak life, PEEC. It was the people, the experiences, the environment, the contribution. These are the 4 key things that we all need, not just want, but need in our lives. And the people, it's like your partner, the people that you work with, your community, and the environment. One of the biggest hacks, the fastest hack anybody can make, is changing your environment. Could be where you live, could be changing like your environment where you run. You just made a comment. It's funny because I'm in Arizona. In the summer, it's terrible. In the winter, it's great to run outside. But in the summer, like, I'm not running outside. It's 110 degrees. So how do you fix that? Your environment. You put a treadmill in your house, or you are like these. So, but hacking your environment, and then hacking your environment around the people. More people have more damage done to them because they have the wrong people influencing them, and then they wonder why their life is a certain way. It's because it's the average of all these people around you, and you wonder why. Oh, well, it's not changing. Yeah, because they're keeping you down. So the choice that you have to make is that one thing: choosing how much of your time is going to be around these people. So that environmental aspect is the ultimate hack in everybody's life, choosing consciously. But we tend to just do what we've done. What we do tomorrow is what we did yesterday, and today we're not even really thinking about it. We sort of have a plan. We want something different. And then we show up tomorrow. We're like, wow, it's like Groundhog Day. Same thing over and over again.
Yeah, so true. What's your process for rapidly identifying whether an opportunity is worth pursuing, or is just a distraction disguised as a business idea?
So it starts off even before that, asking what's the mission I have. So my mission 10 years ago got codified into this one idea that people are financially in prison. Today, it's the modern day slavery. Money is. And so I said, okay, what's my goal? After I watched my dad retire and be broke and struggle and then die with this money worry, I thought, he's not the only one. That's the population. They're all concerned about money. And how can I help that? So the mission is 1 million people that are free from financial slavery, and that we break their financial bondage. So having a core mission, it might be, I want to help people be healthy in their food, or like whatever your mission is, then everything has to fit the mission. So when I see these opportunities that come up, I say, does this fit my mission? And if it does, I say, does this add on to what I'm already doing? Or is this something that's a different, weird, like it's an opportunity, but it doesn't really fit. And so I have to have a completely different business. For most people, the mistake they make is they take on multiple things instead of staying focused. So if you don't have anything, then you say yes to the thing that fits your mission. And if it's wrong, you pivot. But the big mistake is when you have something and then you're like, ooh, look at the shiny nut. And then you're like a drunk squirrel. You go chase the shiny nut. And you're like, wow, now I'm not getting anywhere. I've got 5 businesses that are all average or lukewarm. So I always look at things as, is this a good bolt-on? Is this a good thing for the flywheel? Are people in my ecosystem going to benefit from this thing? Opportunities that come at me all the time, it's easy to say no because it doesn't fit. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, do I have the time to put into this? And for most of us, the answer is no, we don't have the time. And so you have to say, what am I willing to give up? And if you say, I can't think of anything, then the answer is no, I'm not going to do that other thing. Saying no is what super successful people do that average or successful people don't do. Super successful people say no to almost everything. And that's like the superpower, saying no, thank you. And then you move on, and you don't worry about somebody hurting somebody's feelings. You just say, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's hard for a lot of people.
It is hard. You're right.
Now, with all, say again. Sorry.
It's hard until it's easy. Like it's like not drinking is hard until it's easy, until it's just automatic. Not, going and working out and staying really healthy. When you're not healthy, it's a struggle to get momentum. When you have a norm of saying no thank you to people, it doesn't mean you can't come back and say, I changed my mind. This really does resonate with me. But when the norm is no thank you, you're protecting your space so you have open space. If you say yes to everything, like the Jim Carrey movie, Yes Man, you literally don't have any space for the things that really matter. You're complying with somebody else's agenda, and you never really have time to focus and build your agenda. And then you wonder why you're scrambling and running in circles all the time. It's because it's not your world. It's somebody else's world.
Yeah, that's so true. With all that you have achieved so far, what is still on your bucket list?
So it's funny that the bucket list includes a family, includes a wife and kids, and it includes traveling and seeing things that I haven't seen. It's funny I think I've been to 40 some odd countries, and I've seen a lot of interesting things. And my idea of seeing those is really digging in. It's spending a month or a season, a summer in a place, and really going to Paris for 6 hours. I have a friend that did this, flew into Paris. He was there for like a day, and that was his France. And I went, what did you see? He goes, oh, I have a picture of me with the Eiffel Tower. And I was like, bro, you could have gone to the internet and just baked one of those. But the bucket list is really immersing myself with other people. And that's my stuff for me. And it's contributing to solving big problems. Like the company that I helped found and am helping to run and expand, called FrameTech, is solving the housing crisis in the United States. It's building housing, which is desperately needed. And so being a part of my bucket list is never going to be all checked off, because there's always problems. And I love solving problems. Entrepreneurs, that's what we do. We just solve problems. And the bigger the problem, the bigger the payday, the bigger the impact. And so my bucket list is to continue to find inefficiencies and things and struggles and help remove those. Because guess what? There's never going to be a supply that ends of problems. And a lot of fulfillment out of that. And that's the difference between people that are trying to get money versus people that are solving problems. Solving problems is deeply fulfilling. Getting money is a success moment, and that doesn't last. It's fleeting. And then you go, so what's next? I'm never thinking about that. I'm so in love with the process. That's the secret.
Yeah, that's perfect. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today?
I think there's an incredible power. I alluded to this when you're saying no and really thinking. We're so concerned about failing, and why? Because we're concerned about what other people are going to think about us. The great freedom is when you stop caring what other people think in general. I'm talking about the masses. You may care about what your spouse thinks, or maybe your kids, but like, you probably shouldn't care that much about your kids. You should just do the thing because you are the adult. But the truth is, there's this incredible freedom and power. The sooner you can disconnect from what other people think. When you have haters, if you have enough haters, you're doing something right, because you're literally tripwiring people. The reason people come at you and try to get you to stop or criticize you, for the most part, they're feeling like, if I see somebody and I react and say, oh, you're a bad person, or you're stupid, or you made a dumb mistake, I'm saying I am regretting not going out there and trying and doing something. And so I'm trying to make myself feel better. And that's what people are doing instead of going and doing the thing. So the more people that are telling you you're crazy, it's probably a sign that you're heading in the right direction. I should have done that if I should at all on myself. It's 25 years ago. Having done that more would have been better. And I would just encourage everybody to find things to either do more of or find something else that makes you a little crazy in somebody's eyes. You probably know you're finding the edge. And if you're not on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Okay, so we should welcome those haters.
Welcome the people who aren't doing anything in their life. Because if you're going to do something, you're going to have people that are going to try to take you down to their level, to make what they've done in their life valid, to make it normalized. And when you go and exceed, it makes everybody realize, wow, I could have done more, and I didn't. And that's why people tend to pull us back into the box like a bunch of crabs. The crabs pull each other into the box because they don't want the crab to escape. And that's what we're doing when we're starting businesses, when we're being entrepreneurs. We're going out there to do more than we have been doing. We're creating some solutions. And most people, quite frankly, are too lazy to go do something. And they want to keep everybody else lazy around them because it makes them feel better about themselves. And the reality is, your self-concept explodes when you go out there and start building things. That's the key. Go build things. We're all meant to build things, relationships and impact on people. And the money takes care of itself. I promise that's how it works.
Awesome. This is a great place to end. So where can listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or connect with you?
Best place to find me is I wrote a little book we talked about in the beginning about 10x, this idea of 10x. And one of the things that I've gotten really clear on is that going out and making $1 million or $1 million business is interesting, but really there's no freedom in $1 million anymore. Like we're in a different world. So I created this process, and I've done this multiple times. So this isn't theory. It's about creating 10 million. And this is a $10 million net worth. It's $10 million businesses. If you've got a business that's making $18 right now, this is still relevant because these are principles. It'll take you 10 minutes to read this thing. You download it. It's 10 minutes. It's the 10 steps to 10 million. And you can do all this wherever you are between now and 10 years. And it's what I've done over and over again to create multiple $10 million businesses and $100 million businesses and now $1 billion business. This has been my process. So I wrote this thing and said, okay, these are the core principles. You can get it at turnkeyretirement.com. Just download it and take those things, use what you love and throw away the rest. And that's how I kind of look at everything. Just find the nuggets and use those and apply them. And ultimately my goal for everybody is to have that freedom where you're no longer focused on money. Money is just this tool, and you end up having more than you need. And you get to have something that's deeply fulfilling, that's not money-based in your life.
Oh, sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And also, thank you so much for sharing your insights with all of us today. It's been really great talking with you.
Thanks, Claudia. It's been a pleasure.
Keep up the great work. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.